Hey, Edge City, another devotion for you during this Thanksgiving week. This one is about thanking God during difficult times. Well, Thanksgiving Day is almost here, and in our culture, many of us spend the day with family and friends, stuffing ourselves silly with a traditional Thanksgiving meal, maybe watching some sports or a movie, then transitioning to shopping. But for those of us who are considered spiritual, we may even take some time out to count our blessings. Food, shelter, community, even relationship with a good and saving God. But what does not make the list of blessings are things like heartache, adversity, suffering. How are those blessings? But in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 2, we're told that when we're going to be meeting different kinds of trials, and that in the meeting, we should be counting them as joy. It's not a suggestion, it is a command that we're going to go through things like the trials that Joseph, Job, and Jesus went through. And when we encounter them, we're supposed to put them in the category of utter joy. Thank God. This sounds almost masochistic. But if we look at the suffering of our lives through the lens of Christ, we find that God makes suffering purposeful, useful, even good for us. As Tim Keller writes, suffering is at the very heart of the Christian faith. It is not the only way Christ became like us and redeemed us, but it is one of the main ways we become like Him and experience redemption. And that means our suffering, despite its painfulness, is also filled with purpose and intention. As Tim Keller writes, suffering is the very heart of the Christian faith. It is not only the way Christ became like us and redeemed us, but it is one of the main ways we become like Him and experience His redemption. That means our suffering, despite its painfulness, is also filled with purpose and usefulness. Suffering that comes through trials are purposeful, useful. They have a revealing effect. They are like a diagnostic that shows where we are and who we are. The Message translation of James chapter 1, verse 3 reads, "You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. Testing purifies our souls. It refines our hearts from sin and selfishness. God uses suffering to assault and demolish our ego and our illusions, so that the Spirit can come and from that ground build up the very character of Christ in us." And what is necessary for all of this is that we walk through this with steadfastness. The grand reno that God wants to do in our souls is costly, and it's going to take time. It's going to take hardship. But God is so good to actually give us this tool of steadfastness, of perseverance. We're not used to this. We want things done quick, but God, in His plans and His architecture, He's going to give us something and make us into something stunning, intricate, and lasting. You don't make an oak of righteousness overnight, and you don't build a grand cathedral in a day. It takes steadfastness. You know, when you're going through trials and suffering, it's easy to imagine that God is just heartless, callous to your pain. But He really is a good Father who, as Psalm 56:8 would attest, keeps track of our sorrows, collects our tears in His bottle, records them in His book. He's a good Father who will allow us to go through this like training to make us right and strong. During this season, I want to encourage you to count your blessings, because we have many, so many from God, whom every good and perfect gift comes from. But in that list, by faith, would you also count the blessings at hardship, difficulty, pain, because He's using it to build you up, to build us up right and strong, into someone's and some things in a community that is stunning, intricate, and lasting. Thank